So you've taken a few minutes to think about what it means to be a real teacher from your own perspectives. Now let's flip over and think about how students view this stuff. I think many of us have really started thinking about student success. We've really started thinking about what can we do to actually figure out who our students are and not only let them into our college, but actually help them succeed by passing our classes and continuing toward their goal of completion or a degree. So let's talk a little bit about who our online students are. And I think what have to say about online students will also apply to hybrid and flipped students. But let's minimize myself. Actually, I'll disappear myself for a few minutes here. So when we think about online students, we may think that students are taking online classes or hybrid or flipped classes because they're out there looking for something different than that traditional quote unquote lecture style classroom. At least when it comes to online students, the research we've done here at Front Range just doesn't bear that out. There are probably some small percentage of students who know that they're online learners, who are especially tech savvy, who don't want to come to a classroom, who really want that, kind of private learning environment of sitting in their room or on their smartphone or tablet and taking a class, in their pajamas. But when we look at online students, we know that their success rates are lower than when we compare to the same class offered in a face-to-face environment. I will say, I think online teachers should be proud because over the last 5 years, we have increased the success rate in online learning by 5%. So we have certainly gotten better at helping students succeed in our classes, but we haven't reached parity with face-to-face classes yet. When we ask students why they take online classes, it's almost uniformly that they're taking online classes because they need to, right? Because they're too busy to come to class, because their lives are too hectic, they're working full time, they have kids, they simply can't come to campus to take a full load of classes face to face. The vast majority of our online students are picking online classes for logistical reasons and time management reasons. It doesn't mean they don't want to take online classes, but most of them, if they had the best of all worlds, would be in that regular face-to-face class, right? That's really the experience they're looking for, and they're opting to take online classes for great reasons to complete their degree. And in fact, when we look at students at Front Range who actually do manage to complete their goal of completing a degree or a certificate, 70% of those students are actually complementing their face-to-face classes with online classes. I think that's what that tells me is our students are super busy, and in order to complete a degree, they have to take some online classes, even if they don't really want to. Um, from the time I spent on the hybrid course task force and thinking about hybrid courses, I know that's probably also the case. We're probably offering hybrid courses for logistical reasons or time management, scheduling reasons, or because we know our students have trouble making it to class 3 days a week. So we offer hybrids really for the same reasons we're offering online classes. And students are probably taking hybrid classes, again, not because they love a class that's half online and half face-to-face, but because a class that only meets once or twice a week instead of 3 times a week face to face is simply easier to fit into their schedule. And I know from talking to people who've taught flipped classes, most students have no idea they're in one, and when they are, they don't like it, at least initially, right? Because it's something really different. So most of our students are coming to Front Range really hoping and wanting that kind of engaged experience that is possible in a face-to-face class. And so maybe it's not a surprise that some of them struggle in an online or a hybrid class when there is less teacher presence and less instructor engagement. And one of the ways we can look at how students view online courses is I already talked about this. So if you've worked with me over the last few years, you've probably seen this information. We do online master teacher nominations each year where students can nominate their teacher as a master teacher. And if they want to nominate their teacher as a master online teacher, they simply get a blank text box and they just type, right? They type why. So they're not prompted to talk about anything specific. They just write an open-ended nomination for their teacher. And over the last 3 years, we've had somewhere around 180 individual nominations for Online Master Teacher, roughly the same number each year. And I've done qualitative data analysis on those essay nominations. And my reasoning here was, in online learning, we have course quality guidelines. We think we know what constitutes a quality course, and we want to try to help teachers design and teach quality courses to help students. And I wanted to know, what are students saying? What leads a student to nominate a course as a master course or nominate their teacher as a master teacher? The reason I kind of conflated course with teacher is because that's what students do. When you read their nominations, students are not distinguishing the course from the teacher. When they talk about why their teacher is a master online teacher, they really are talking about the entire course. So I think students don't distinguish the course design from the course content, from the tools you're using, from who you are. And so just keep that in mind as food for thought. So what I did was I went through and I looked at themes in these nominations, and I plotted those themes on these 3 circles. And I picked these 3 areas because they represent 3 of the course quality guidelines for online learning. Now, at this point, there are no course quality guidelines for hybrid courses or flipped courses, but you could still think about the same thing. I have a sense that some of these themes would apply to hybrid and flipped courses or just regular face-to-face courses. So what are 3 of the course quality guidelines in online learning? One of them is instructor-generated content, right? We really want and expect online teachers to design courses that include their own content. That might be written lectures, audio lectures, videos, curated content, links to websites, notes, PowerPoint presentations, podcasts, I mean, you name it. Whatever it is that you create, that either replaces a textbook or adds to the textbook, and we call that instructor-generated content, right? I mean, the value-added things that you bring to the course for your students to supplement the textbook or to supplement the publisher-based resources. Another one is assessment and feedback. We really know based on research that feedback to students is really important. And so does the course have the kinds of assessments that allow you to give the kinds of feedback in a timely way that helps students learn? And so I wanted to see, what do students think about feedback? And we have an instructor presence criteria, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So we do definitely say online classes need instructor presence, and if we remember back from Unit 1, every online class should have, multiple hours per week, 3 or more hours per week of what the Higher Learning Commission and the federal government, according to the federal credit hour guideline, what they call instructor facilitated teaching or instructor directed teaching. So what is instructor presence? And what I did was I just plotted the themes to see, what do students care about? And you can see here, instructor presence, this 166 note here. What that tells you is that of those 180 individual student nominations over 3 years for Online Master Teacher, 166 of those specifically mentioned something to do with instructor presence. 40 of them talked about instructor-generated content. 47 of them talked about assessment and feedback, and there were obviously some comments that didn't fit into these circles, but actually very few. In fact, when you look at something like interactions with classmates or class course community, out of 180 nominations, fewer than 15 nominations mentioned this class was great because there was a great class community. That doesn't mean I think community isn't important, but it isn't something students often bring up as a hallmark of a great class. So the reason the circles overlap is because I think students weren't trying to comment on 3 different buckets. They were just talking in general. And so, for instance, when 12 students specifically talked about what they loved about their class was that it was personalized, and the personalized style that the instructor added to the class really brought the material to life. And so that's really both an instructor presence comment, but also instructor generated content comment, right? Because students are really talking about how does that content, how do the course notes, the lectures, the podcasts, the videos, the curated content, the news items, all of the content that an instructor brings, when it's personalized, it does something different, right? It is bringing that material to life in a way that publisher-based resources or a textbook just can't do, right? So I counted that in both areas. When it comes to assessment and feedback, I mean, students definitely wanted constructive and fair feedback. They wanted it timely, regular, and responsive, but they were really more interested in the fact that feedback was positive, encouraging, and uplifting, which is clearly an instructor presence issue. They liked feedback that guided them like a real teacher would. They liked that about a class. So, I mean, one way to guide a student like a real teacher is to interact with them in your feedback in a way that shows them that you are a real person and that you're helping them move from that formative work toward that summative work. But I want to focus on this because that's what this unit is about. By far, what students tell us when they nominate teachers as Master Online Teachers is classes are great when there is a teacher in there that evokes instructor presence, that evokes a sense of engagement, the sense of a real teacher, and it's pretty clear. Students really love it when they felt a personal connection with their teacher. 67 specific mentions of that. They want teachers that are warm, caring, friendly, teachers that want them to succeed, teachers that are passionate, excited about their content, teachers that are inspirational, that are fun, that are an active presence, that are a facilitator in discussions. 57 students specifically mentioned not just that there are discussions and not that their teacher is offering a summary of the discussions, but the teacher is actually in the discussions as an active presence, being a participant and a facilitator. 33 mentions of screencasts, and my sense is this is going to grow because many more people are doing screencasts. Instructor cares about us by offering us multiple ways to learn, right? It's not just pointing to the textbook, it's not just pointing to the instructor resources or to YouTube videos, but they're giving us multiple ways to learn. So what I would like you to do, I'm going to stop talking, is ponder this online master teacher research. And I guess before I let you go, I'll say this. It is not clear to me that the students in these classes are learning more than students that are in classes that don't have a lot of instructor presence. But I can tell you as someone who's been teaching online for 20 years, I hope my teachers see me as warm, caring, and friendly. I do want them to succeed, and I want that to come through to the students. I hope my students see me as someone who's inspirational, who's passionate about philosophy, who's excited about the content, and who wants them to learn. I want to guide my students like a real teacher. I want to be an active presence in the class, right? I want to bring my style into the class. I want them to know I care. So, you know, I won't guarantee that these classes are good learning environments just because students like them, but at least when I reflect on this, this is definitely the sort of thing, these are the sorts of things that I would want students to say about me if they were reviewing my class. So I'm just going to pause and give you an open-ended text area to comment about this master teacher research and what we know about our online hybrid and flipped students in our classes.